On the Radar with the CBS 17 Storm Team.
Welcome to On the Radar, your weekly look at our weather world, exclusively here on CBS 17 Plus. We cover the biggest weather and science stories of the week, and I'm Wes Hohenstein.
I'm meteorologist Rachel Dunzing. Wes, we've really been enjoying being able to take this sort of deeper dive, being able to spend at least 30 minutes talking about different weather stories, like you said, the climate stories, and also what's going on in space as well. So, as is always the case here on the Radar, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, including we are now, by the time you are watching this on CBS 17 Plus, we are now in a new month. It is now May, so we want to look back on April, what we experienced, what we went through, how warm it was, how much rain we got, and also looking ahead to what we can expect for this month in May. So on top of that, we're going to talk about an anniversary of a major telescope that maybe you forgot was still floating around up in space, as well as we're going to talk about some really cool things that a group of high school students are taking care of and making and taking on an adventure. They're starting it in Texas, and they're going to go all the way across the globe. It's going to be a really cool event.
Down under. Once again, we found high school students that are smarter than us.
It doesn't take much at this point. I mean, these kids are great. But we want to go ahead and start out with what we just lived through. As Wes always likes to say, let's go ahead and go back to the month of April, because it was a warm one, Wes. I mean, I feel like any of us who spend any amount of time outside, we're like, whew, yeah, it's definitely toasty out here.
Yeah, the warmest on record, in fact, and our records go all the way back to 1887. If you think back to the month, you remember we had a 90 degree, we came close a couple of the times, we mixed in a couple cold mornings, but when you look at this graphic, that's giving us the average temperature. So we take the highs, we take the lows, we average them out, so 66.8 is right now, and it looks like it will go down in the record books as the warmest April on record for the Triangle.
Yeah, I mean, 66.8 degrees, almost 67 degrees, that's pretty significant. And the next warmest April that we had was just a few years ago in 2017, 66.5. But look at the difference between 2017 and last April 2024. That's almost 2 degrees. So it goes to show just how warm this April has been for us. Now, it should be noted that last February of 2024 was a very, very warm one. So sometimes it just comes a little bit earlier, a little later. This time the warm weather definitely came a little bit later. You had mentioned that we already hit 90 degrees. Let's go ahead and just take a look at some of the warmer days that we've experienced. In April 4th, 90 degrees. I can't remember. Was that a record warm day? I can't remember.
It was close. I don't remember either. I've slept since then. But, if you take a look, step back and just look at the whole calendar, these are the recorded highs at RDU Airport here in the Triangle. And you see a lot of orange. We make a number orange when it's at or above average. Below average is blue. And there's a lot of clumps of orange. We had a couple cool spells, but there's been a lot of warm days, and that's what has led to this being the warmest April on record.
Yeah, I mean, only 8 days that were below average, and so while the 4th was the warmest day at 90 degrees, our coolest day was actually April 9th. Now, the afternoon temperature was 62 degrees, but we had a low of 37 that morning. So again, if we're talking about averages, averaging that out, that's an average temperature of 50 degrees for that day. So we had an afternoon high temperature of 90 degrees. We had one day that had an average temperature of 50 degrees. We've kind of felt a lot here over the month of April, but April is pretty much gone and behind us now. We are now looking ahead to the month of May, and what are we expecting for the month of May? Well, obviously, warmer temperatures. We've talked about, the average highs where we're supposed to be. When we start out May, we're supposed to have an afternoon high temperature around 77 degrees. By the time we get to the end of May, we're supposed to have an afternoon high temperature of 84 degrees. So we're really starting to warm up quickly now. And it's the same for our mornings. We're supposed to start out around 54 in early May during the morning. By the late May, our morning temperatures are going to be as warm as possibly 62 degrees. So not only are we getting warmer, but when our morning temperatures are a little warmer, it means there's more humidity in the air as well. So we're getting warmer, we're getting a little more muggy. That can all lead to better chances for rain and thunderstorms, which is pretty typical for this time of year.
Yeah, and remember, in our trip around the sun, as we head towards summer, June, July, and August, the angle of the sun gets more directly overhead. That helps to warm us up. Also, longer days help to warm us up. And throughout the month of May, we will gain about 45 minutes of daylight. The sun is now setting after 8 o'clock. By the end of the month, the sun will be rising around 6 a.m. So our days continue to get longer. Our days continue to get warmer.
Yeah, it is so nice to have the sun still even a little bit kind of out at 8 o'clock
Right.
in the evening.
When our day's over.
When our day is over,
Right.
exactly. Although, spending time outside and you're still getting sunburned. So make sure you put on that SPF.
Your skin is matching your dress today.
Just a little bit. I tried to cover it up with makeup so it wouldn't be so red. I don't think I did a very good job. But a big part of that sunshine, like we said, warming up, this time of year, we start to warm up. We get more humidity, but we're still kind of transitioning from the cooler months of winter. We're transitioning from spring into summer, so we still get a lot of cold fronts that come in. We still have that really cold air that tries to come down from the northern plains and from Canada, and so as we're warming up, we get more humid, we get those clashes of the cooler and the warmer air masses. That brings us a good chance for thunderstorms, and that's why May is actually our busiest tornado month on average here in North Carolina. We normally think of the fall as a very active month just because we get remnant tornadoes from tropical systems, but May can and has been very active for us in terms of tornado activity.
Yeah, remember, spring is a transition month. We're transitioning from getting all that cold air to starting getting more warm air from the Gulf of Mexico. When that cold air from Canada and that warm air from the Gulf collide, it creates chaos in the atmosphere, and that chaos comes out in the form of storms, which sometimes can produce tornadoes. So that's why this time of year is the busiest.
Alrighty, so let's really go ahead and deep dive into May. It actually looks like, did we just get a new update? I think that's an update.
It is, yeah.
Sure is, yeah.
May, it was hinting at warmer than average for the month of May, but as we look at our temperature forecast from the Climate Prediction Center for the month of May, not only all of North Carolina, but most of the eastern half of the country expecting warmer than average temperatures. Now, that doesn't mean 90 or 100 every day. It just means above our averages, which we just talked about, are moving from the 70s into the 80s.
And I always like to put the caveat out there that just because this month is trending warmer than average, we're expecting our temperatures to be warmer than what is typical, that doesn't mean we're not going to have cool days. There's probably going to be one, if not more, days in May where the afternoon high temperature is probably only in the 60s, which would be cooler than where we're supposed to be. But the whole point of being warmer than average is by the time it averages out, we're going to be warmer than where we're supposed to be. So that's definitely the way this trend is going for the month of May. And in terms of rain, yeah, we're definitely expecting, well, maybe not quite wetter than average conditions, but maybe a good chance of either one.
Yeah, and the caveat with the rain outlook for the month of May, which is what we're looking at here, is you could have a week of dry weather and then one day where you get 2 inches of rain. So, but when you look at the whole month, by the time it's all said and done, we're probably looking at equal chances or slightly below average amounts of rain by the time the month is all said and done.
Yeah, the core of where we're expecting most of the rain is actually well away from us, kind of more like south central plains, and that equal chances of being either slightly above average in terms of rain or slightly below average just means that exactly that. There's a kind of an equal chance of either happening, so it's really going to be focused more on what's happening in the short term with our weather patterns. But we kind of would like some rain, although it is very hit or miss across the state as we check out the drought monitor.
Yeah, so this is the current look at the drought index, which, as you can see, some places don't have any drought. Other places across the state do have moderate drought, even some severe drought out to the east. But we want less color on this map going into the summer because summer is typically drier and hotter. That's bad for our yards. It's bad for our crops. So we like to get ahead in the winter and spring, but we haven't necessarily done that across all of the state right now.
Yeah, it has been, and it's such a cliche, and I kind of hate using this phrase, but it's really been feast or famine in terms of rain because it has been very spotty. I mean, clearly there are some parts of the triangle that have had decent amounts of rain to where the drought monitor has pretty much dissipated, but then look at eastern North Carolina. They're in a severe drought. That's that level 3 drought. So clearly there are areas that need rain. We definitely need more of that, and we're hoping that as we get more into May, I know it's equal chances of either drier than or wetter than, but we hope for at least a couple of good days of rain to really help abate the dry conditions, not just for us, but all across the state. And of course, we've had wildfires going on across the state, especially in the mountains, so rain would be a good thing to really sort of ease all of those concerns.
Yeah, it would. So that's what's going on here on our planet. Let's switch gears and look up and talk about some big anniversaries we have in space.
Yes, it is the 35th anniversary of the Hubble telescope. It launched April 24th of 1990. It's been floating around in space this entire time in low orbit. It has given us some amazing images for all of us to look at, but has also taught us a lot about the universe, things that we had no idea about before Hubble was launched into space. So we're going to hear from Dr. Jennifer Wiseman of NASA, and she's going to explain a little bit more about Hubble, and they released some images for the big anniversary, and she's going to explain more about them as well.
So to celebrate Hubble's 35th birthday, we're releasing 4 new images from Hubble. There are different parts of the universe. One of them is the Rosette Nebula, or a part of it, where stars are still forming. And you can see dark clouds and then lit up clouds behind those where new stars are ionizing the gas and showing off this glow. We also are releasing an image of a planetary nebula. Now, this colorful nebula really has nothing to do with planets. That's just what they called it decades ago. But it is really the remnants of a dead star system, and the outflows from the remaining white dwarf star are creating this glowing cloud that's expanding away from the central sources there. We have an image from outside of our galaxy of another galaxy. This is a spiral galaxy. It doesn't look quite like we think our Milky Way does because the spiral arms are kind of smudged together. We call it a flocculent spiral. But in the middle, you see this amazing bar-like structure. These are common in some types of spiral galaxies, and they are the mechanism by which gas and dust from the outer parts of the galaxy are funneled in toward the middle and can fuel the formation of new stars. We think our Milky Way also has some kind of a bar in the center. And then much closer to home in our own solar system, we've taken new pictures of Mars. These really wonderful clear shots of Mars show different features on the planet from different perspectives. As Mars is rotating, we see the icy poles on the top, we see clouds, and we can also see mountain ranges and deep canyons and plain structures. Mars is an interesting planet to study, both for what it's doing now, but for what it was like in the past. These images from the Hubble Space Telescope show us the variety of scientific discovery that Hubble is capable of doing. We're using Hubble in new, exciting ways because Hubble sees wavelengths or colors of light that other observatories don't see, and vice versa, so we use them in complement. Scientists are using Hubble's ultraviolet light capabilities to see this energetic light that comes from star-forming regions and also explosive events out in the universe from energetic stars. We're using Hubble to complement the infrared light observations that the newer Webb Space Telescope can do. Webb can see deep into the universe, some of the earliest galaxies. Hubble sees nearer galaxies in all the detail, seeing its hot spots of star formation. With this information together, scientists are piecing together how galaxies have grown and merged and changed over all of cosmic history. It's a very exciting new dual tool. When Hubble was first launched, we were still just trying to understand some very basics, like how fast is the universe expanding, and what are some of the processes by which stars form. Hubble has given us an avalanche of information. We've now measured very precisely the expansion rate of the universe. And in fact, now, thanks to Hubble working with telescopes on the ground, we know that that expansion of the universe is accelerating by something called dark energy. We've understood that Hubble is picking up signs of dark matter in the universe. This is mass we can't see, but we see its gravitational effects by distorted light. Hubble's picked up lots of regions in the universe where dark matter is prevalent. Scientists are using in particular the Hubble and the Webb Space Telescopes in complement because they see different wavelengths of light. Hubble concentrates on visible light and the energetic ultraviolet light. And Webb concentrates on red light and infrared light. And so when we have these observatories used in complement, we see this whole spectrum of colors that enable us to learn a whole lot more about whatever we're studying, whether it's the solar system or other star systems or distant galaxies. I have many favorite images from the Hubble Space Telescope. I love the colorful nebulae because they show us that star formation is still going on. But I think my favorite image from Hubble is something called the Ultra Deep Field. This was an image taken by simply pointing the telescope in a direction of the sky that didn't have a lot of nearby stars to drown out the image, and just collecting faint light for days and days with Hubble. The resulting image is famous now. It's covered with little splotches of light. Well, those little splotches are galaxies outside of our own Milky Way. And these galaxies can contain hundreds of billions of stars. I like to imagine being able to go to each one of them and check it out. We can't do that yet with our technology, but we can do it with our eyes and just see how galaxies fill the universe, how rich they are. And of course, scientists are now learning about the history of the universe by looking at how the more distant galaxies in this image compare to ones closer to us. Because astronomy is like a time machine. It's taken time for the light to get to us. And for the more distant ones, we're seeing farther back in time. The Hubble Space Telescope is in excellent technical condition. For something that's 35 years old, it's really incredible. And the reason that Hubble is in good shape is because, first of all, we've had these series of astronaut servicing missions where astronauts have returned to the telescope, put in new and improved instrumentation and repaired components. And now we have this excellent team of experts on the ground who are constantly monitoring Hubble's technical health. They can address any glitches remotely from the ground. It's pretty incredible. And we're even learning to operate the observatory in different ways so that as it ages, we can continue to get excellent scientific results.
Yeah, so some really cool stuff. Again, I feel like some of us kind of forget that Hubble is even up there. It's been such a staple for either so many of our childhoods or our adulthoods. We're just like, oh yeah, Hubble, it's up there. You know, we kind of forget about it. But 35 years, it's been doing some really cool stuff. So thanks, Dr. Jennifer Wiseman, for explaining a little bit more about that. But Wes, you know, you're a self-proclaimed sort of space nerd.
Sadly.
Okay. I mean, everyone loves looking up at the stars, right? So you have some fun facts about Hubble that we think people would be interested in.
Yeah, so remember, Hubble went up when we had space shuttles going up. It went back in 1990. It went up on Discovery, and it's as big as a school bus. So we put a school bus essentially on the space shuttle and took it up back in 1990. It's been up there ever since. Originally, it cost $5 billion for the whole project. And back in the day, I mean, we had the Challenger disaster, and that kind of put the brakes on everything. So Hubble theoretically could have been up there even longer, but there were so many delays. But since then, it has been the most expensive NASA project on record, over $10 billion. So we put a lot into it. We've gotten a lot out of it, and hopefully it can continue to stay up there. But she mentioned dark energy. And here I thought that dark energy was something that was only on the Avengers radar, not on NASA's.
Yeah, or on our radar.
We'll have
so
to do a
speak.
whole new episode on dark energy.
Right. And that's the really cool thing about Hubble is Hubble has literally changed how we know the universe, how we understand the universe. Space is vast, and there's so much that we don't know. And so by having these space telescopes up there, in space, we've been able to learn so much. And it is a low Earth orbit, and it is able to see galaxies billions of light years away, which is how we're able to learn more about the past of space. Like they said, it's more like a time machine. But here's something really cool, is there's so many of these telescopes and satellites up there now, and they work together. So the latest one is the James Webb Telescope, named after a North Carolinian, by the way. And so they work together. They see in different wavelengths, but they're also getting ready to launch another one, or at least it's in production. It's called the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, and that is named after Nancy Grace, NASA's first chief astronomer and the, quote, mother of the Hubble Space Telescope. So they're really honoring her with that, but this one is going to have a field of view 100 times larger than Hubble, and this is where the dark energy comes in. It's going to be able to study dark energy, exoplanets, and infrared astrophysics. Yes, I had to look down to read all of that because that is way over my
That's
head.
a lot.
But still so interesting that, 35 years after Hubble, first of all, it's still up there, and we're still learning great things, and they're doing more partnerships to have us learn even more, which is amazing.
The picture's about to get better up in space. Let's come back to our planet, but we're going to go next to a different hemisphere, Rachel.
Yeah, we definitely have a group of high school students in Texas have a really cool project, and they're taking it across the globe to test it out, make sure it works, get some bragging rights, as well as, did you hear a rumor about being able to see something in the sky that might be smiling down on you? We're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. That is coming up after the break on the Radar.
If your kids love the weather, CBS 17 is happy to bring you Weather Kids. Give your kids the chance to do the weather with a CBS 17 Storm Team meteorologist. Not only will they learn what it's like to be a meteorologist, but their forecast will also be featured on air here on CBS 17. Signing up is a breeze. Just visit cbs17.com/Weather Kids to get your Weather Kid registered today. Weather Kids, sponsored by Renewal by Anderson. On the Radar with the CBS 17 Storm Team.
Welcome back to On the Radar. We had a great discussion about the Hubble Telescope, everything that happened in April in terms of temperatures and what we can expect for May. But of course, we have a little bit more to talk about here with the rest of our time here on the Radar. Rachel Denzing joined by meteorologist Wes Hohenstein. And we are first going to start out with, we'll call it some sky rumors. A lot of stuff happens where we get told from the internet that you're going to see something in the sky that looks a certain way, and then turns out it's not totally accurate, Wes.
Yeah, a little bit of fake news. Let's head back to space. So over the past couple of weeks, you may have seen the headline that you are going to be able to see this in space, a giant smiley face made by a sliver of the moon with two bright eyes that were Venus and Saturn. Well, part of that is true, but it is not going to look like this. And it did not look like this last early Friday morning. Thankfully, we've got some amazing viewers who are also photographers. Our buddy Scott Ellis captured this picture of what it actually looked like. And if you want it to really look like a smiley face, you got to kind of turn your head. And it's not as big as the internet would have you believe, but it's still a pretty cool sight. I mean, consider the fact that we knew this was going to happen, so we have the ability to forecast when the planets and the moon are going to align in a way like this. I still think that's an amazing feat in itself. But there it is, the sliver of the moon. That is Venus, and that is Saturn above the skyline early Friday morning out at Jordan Lake. Again, thanks to our buddy Scott Ellis for that photo.
And even if it didn't quite turn out like the internet would have us believe,
Right.
it's still always just so cool to see. We know that there are so many cool things to see up in the skies right now, and even though we can't always see the sun, we know it's always out there and doing big things. And the reason we get to that is there are a group of high school students in Texas that are going to utilize the energy of the sun to power a car that they built more than 2,000 miles in a totally different country, in a totally different part of the world. It is a really fascinating story. We thought we'd share it all with you. So we want to share with these high school students from Greenville, Texas, and their big adventure.
15-year-old Ethan Kiowski doesn't even have a driver's license.
Not yet.
But he's helped build this entire car from start to finish with the Greenville High School Solar Car Team.
It's really cool to see a project like that come together and go from the drawing board and the CAD to then the mold getting printed and then the body, and now it's here on the road ready to go.
And Ethan's getting ready to drive it nearly 2,000 miles across Australia.
It's fun, it is. It can also be scary at times.
This car will compete against teams from universities around the globe in the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge.
We're the only high school team from the United States that will be competing.
They'll travel the outback in vehicles powered only by the energy of the sun, driving by day and camping in the desert at night in a race to the finish line.
It seriously is a one-in-a-lifetime thing. I'm going to be able to tell my kids that I went to Australia as a high schooler and competed in a solar car race.
Greenville is hoping for a top 10 finish, but 16-year-old Kinley Myers says no matter how the competition goes, she's gained invaluable experience.
I've learned so much about myself and how to handle other people, because you're not going to get along with everybody and you're not going to like everybody. But being able to work with them is something that you're going to need in the real world always.
Their teachers say lessons in teamwork, problem solving, and creativity
It makes you learn to adapt to anything that you have to do.
will set the kids up for success in whatever career they pursue.
6 months ago, this car didn't exist. This is a testament to how hard these students have worked.
And they can't wait to put that hard work to the ultimate test on a global stage.
We're going to come out and we're going to show that even as 15 and 16-year-olds, like, we can build something just as great.
In Greenville, Caroline Vandergriff, CBS News, Texas.
Once again, sophomores in high school that are smarter than us, number one.
I know.
So the competition is in August. It's called the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge. It's been going on for 30 years. They do it every other year. So you heard they got to drive all the way across Australia, kind of north to south. That would be like driving from Raleigh to Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it takes them about 30 hours. So just an amazing, it would be an amazing feat for me to drive a regular car that far, let alone build a solar car and do the driving.
Right, and the fact that they built it themselves and they're doing all the work themselves, and then they get to show it off on this sort of global stage by going to Australia. I mean, that's amazing. I always joke about this, but you know, the kids are all right. They're going to be just fine. They're doing amazing.
Yeah,
things.
I volunteer to go cover that personally, though, when they do the competition in August.
Absolutely, that would be amazing. You and I can both go. It'd be a
We'll
great
put that
time.
request into the boss, see how that goes.
Yeah, it probably won't go over very well, but something that always goes over really well. Every night at 11 o'clock, we always love to show off our super sunsets. And Wes, we had a lot of them again this week, so we want to show off more of our local photographers.
Yeah, let's wrap up this episode of On the Radar. First, we'll go to Emerald Isle. Thanks to Sandy for this super sunset. This is back in March. That's a beautiful shot.
Oh,
back in
gorgeous.
March, though, I don't know if I'd be ready to get in the water.
Not at all.
Let's go to Iowa. Our buddy Austin, you know, he doesn't live in North Carolina, but he follows us online and on social media, and he too is a great photographer. This is in Chariton, Iowa, just outside Des Moines. Thanks to Austin for that super sunset. Let's go down to Moore County, back here in North Carolina. This is Seven Lakes. Water always provides a great backdrop for a super sunset, and this is from Robin. Thank you for that. And here's my favorite. We're going to go halfway across the world to Thailand. This is from Kelsey. Kelsey's grandpa lives here locally, and he sends me super sunsets. Well, Kelsey, his granddaughter, got word that we do this, and she travels all over the world. Again, this is in Thailand. This is the first super sunset we've had in Thailand. So that's a great shot. And then I'll finish not with a sunset, but from something that happened this week, the Starlink satellite chain passing over North Carolina. This is outside our back door here at CBS 17. You know, Elon Musk's company SpaceX is putting internet satellites into space. They have thousands up there already. And a couple days after they launch them once or twice a week, they got to get configured in low orbit. And they line up, and when they pass over the right place at the right time, you can see them. So I don't know if you saw this, but we tried to let you know about it on the news. Here is a picture of what the Starlink satellite chain looks like passing over central North Carolina. Don't forget, I show sunsets every night at 11 o'clock on CBS 17. If you've got one, drop me an email to sendit@cbs17.com.
So thank you so much. Oh, what
That's
were
the
you
end,
gonna say?
right?
That's it. Yeah,
That's
all I
the
was gonna
end. That's
say.
a wrap for this week's episode of On the Radar. It is our weekly look at what's on our radar and what we put on your radar. I'm Wes Hohenstein.
I'm meteorologist Rachel Dunsing. Don't worry, Wes was just, admiring the super
Right.
sunsets and all of that good stuff. We all like to look up at the sky. We hope all of this is on your radar. And again, thank you so much for watching. We hope you have a great day.